The Sandman. Did the comics or TV series do it better? Let's dive in and decide. Let's start with the differences between the characters from the page to the screen. First up, we have our main character, Lord Dream, also known as Morpheus, played by Tom Sturridge. In the comics, Dream usually appears as a tall, thin man with bone-white skin, black hair, and two distant stars looking out from the shadows where his eyes should be. In the series, Sturridge accurately matches the tall, thin, and extremely pale complexion of his comic counterpart. He also has black hair, which changes in length and style depending on the time period he is in, but his eyes are silver, unlike the different colors in the comics. Next up is the Corinthian, played by Boyd Holbrook. In the comics, he is described as an impeccable dresser, and often he only wears white clothing. His most notable physical feature is his lack of eyes, and in their place is 2 rows of small teeth lining each eye socket, which he hides with sunglasses. Gross, right? In the series, Holbrook matches the description pretty well. He is well-dressed and usually in white clothes, and he wears sunglasses to hide his teeth in the eye sockets thing that he has going on. We also have to talk about Lucifer, one of the main antagonists, portrayed by the impeccable Gwendolyn Christie. In the comics, Lucifer is portrayed as a sophisticated and charming man, although beneath his charisma, he is a deadly character. Physically, he is tall and dapper and handsome with light skin, amber eyes, and blonde or reddish hair depending on the lighting. In the series, however, a female-identifying actress portrays Lucifer, with the team making Lucifer have more of an androgynous features. The character retains their elegance, beauty, and cunning behavior with pale skin and short white hair. And one character that has major changes is John Constantine. In the comics, he is portrayed with short blonde hair and blue eyes. He's often portrayed as wearing a blue pinstripe suit, a tan trench coat, and occasionally gloves. While that's his trademark attire, as the series progressed, it became a lot grungier. In the series, however, John Constantine is gender-swapped as Johanna Constantine, portrayed by Jenna Coleman. Johanna is a young woman with long, dark hair and brown eyes, which is quite different from her comic inspiration. Now, let's talk about the biggest story changes between the comics and the TV series adaptation. One of the major changes is about John Dee's story. In the comics, his arc is one of the most disturbing stories since it shows how powerful one of Dream's tools is. John's motivation is very different between the show and the comics. In the series, he says he wants a more honest world since he grew up experiencing what it's like to be lied to all the time. In the comics, however, John just wants chaos. And I quote, "I'll dismember the world and then dance in the wreckage." Pretty dark, right? Another major change is Jed Walker's dream. Jed's dream is central to the story as it helps Rose and Dream find him. He's been cut off from the dreaming by Galt, a rogue nightmare who hides from Morpheus and shields Jed from his troubling reality. Unlike the comics, where 2 nightmares, Brute and Glob, trap Hector and Lita in the dream, Galt in the show appears to merge aspects of both. In the dream, Hector believes he's a hero, while Lita is stuck in a state of constant pregnancy. Speaking of character arc changes, the series changes up Johanna Constantine's a lot. While the intense scene where Johanna Constantine exorcises a princess's fiancé is unique to the show, she isn't the original character who helps Dream recover his sand. In the comics, that role belongs to, obviously, John Constantine. Still, it's a clever touch that the series uses Johanna as a modern counterpart to Lady Joanna from the 18th century. Their connection is highlighted in the scene that closely mirrors the comics, where Lady Joanna uncovers the secret meetings between Dream and Hob Gadling. The fan-favorite Duel in Hell sequence from the comics is also a standout episode of the Netflix series. But the adaptation changed it up quite a bit. One of the biggest changes is the duel for Dream's helmet. In the comics, it happens in a nightclub between Dream and Corazon. The show moves it to a more dramatic setting, emphasizing the tension between Dream and Lucifer instead. There's also a significant change with regard to the time period of the story. Originally published in 1989 and 1996, the comics reflect the technology and culture of that era. The show updates the setting to the 2020s, incorporating modern elements like smartphones. Still, it nods the past with details like Unity's old-fashioned telephone. Hobgadling's journey from the 1400s to today also highlights the centuries that Dream has witnessed. But I also want to highlight one of the biggest changes from the comics, which is that Corinthian has a larger role in the TV series. In the comics, Morpheus easily tracks down the rogue Nightmare and doesn't cross paths with as many major characters as he does in the show. The Corinthian, even with Rose's presence, is never powerful enough to harm Dream and is quickly unmade at the serial convention. Now, let's talk about what the TV series got right and what it got wrong. One of the main strengths of the Netflix series is the stunning visual production design that brings to life the complex magical world of the comics. Through high-quality visual effects, elaborate sets, and the stunning costumes, the series has a lush and imaginative aesthetic for the dreaming. The team behind the TV series was also faithful in bringing to life many of the iconic panels and images from the graphic novels with painstaking accuracy, which many longtime fans have appreciated. The casting also aided this by finding the perfect actors for the main and supporting roles. Tom Sturridge's performance as Dream is central to the show's success, and he provides an added dimension to the character that simply makes him compelling and empathetic. Kirby Hal-Baptiste's performance as Death was a particular fan favorite, while Boyd Holbrook's performance elevated the Corinthian even with his character's major changes. Another strength of the adaptation is how faithful but also thoughtful it is in honoring the comic's spirit while also adapting it for a modern audience. Thanks to the creators' close involvement, the writing team ensured to bring to life core stories, character arcs, and dialogue from the source material faithfully. Although several parts of it were updated for modern audiences, it was thoughtful in such details as gender swapping certain characters like Johanna Constantine and maintaining other inclusive casting choices, which expanded the representation without necessarily sacrificing the integrity of any of the stories. However, as much as the series had its strengths, it did also have a few weaknesses too. While inclusivity and diversity in the casting and changes were praised, some other characters and plot lines were sanitized and toned down for the sake of the story. This ultimately changed the tone of the franchise between the comics and the TV series. The comics were often praised for their grittier and more horrifying elements, which the series attempts to retain, although they tone down a lot of it for the sake of making the show a little more accessible to new audiences. The famous 24/7 diner scene, for example, while still intense, was adapted in a more timid way than the gruesome visual horror of the comic, which many felt undercut its emotional impact. Another change, which I mentioned earlier, is the character of the Corinthian, who goes from being an unhinged, impulsive, driven serial killer to a more methodical and conventional villain, which takes away the disturbing elements that made him such a fan favorite to begin with. This is just one of many examples of how the series really cuts down the original tone from the source material. Which brings me to another weakness of the Netflix adaptation, the uneven and slow pacing. While some fans have appreciated the show's more deliberate and atmospheric approach, many have actually complained that the pacing is one of the show's biggest issues, which I have to agree with. Season 1 adapted the first two comic arcs, Preludes and Nocturnes, and The Doll's House, but it felt clumsily stitched together for TV. Season 2 then went beyond that and adapted several comic arcs like The Kindly One's Season of Mists, Brief Lives, and A Midsummer Night's Dream, which, in an attempt to fully give the audience more of the lore and mythology behind the world, ended up feeling very overwhelming and confusing. Some scenes linger too long, while other times significant plot points just feel rushed. This creates a more disjointed experience for viewers who may not be super familiar with the source material. And because there are so many characters, it becomes harder for new fans to connect with them and the story. All right. So, which one wins, the comic or the Netflix TV series? For me, I do have to say the TV series wins. It really brought the pages of the comics to life in such an imaginative and fantastical way, from the attention to the world-building details to the added changes in the storyline that really elevated fan-favorite characters like the Corinthian, and so much more. But what do you think? Did the adaptation do the comics justice, or do you simply prefer the original? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And I'll see you next time right here on Collider.